My name is Celeste Herbert, and I am here this morning to conduct the legal history interview of my friend and mentor, Joe McAfee, for the Knoxville Bar Association. Alrighty, you need to state your name and your date of birth.
My name is Joe McAfee, and my date of birth is August the 29th, 1936.
And you're getting ready to have a big birthday.
A big birthday. Yes, I am, Celeste.
You are the senior partner at Edgerton, McAfee, Armstead, and Davis. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Tell us about your growing up. You are a Knoxvillian lifelong, but you weren't always a West Knoxville fella. Tell us about your growing up.
Okay, I grew up, I'm a North Knoxville boy, okay, and I grew up on Emerald Boulevard in North Knoxville, right off Broadway. Went to grammar school right up the street from my home place. Went to Christenberry Junior High School. Went to Fulton High School, walked to school every day from my home. Then from Fulton High School, I went to the University of Tennessee, where I got my BS degree, and then went on to law school and got my LLM degree. So I spent most of my younger years in North Knoxville.
You've been brought up in the law, and interestingly enough, your name itself relates to this law firm.
Correct.
Tell us for whom you're named.
Well, I was named after Mr. Mont Edgerton. My middle name is Mont. My first name is Joe, but my dad's name, who I'm named after also, actually was named Joseph. I was only named Joe. I don't know why he cut my name off, but he did. My dad is my hero, okay? He was my hero and is my hero today. He was a great lawyer and was one of the founders of this firm. He and Mr. Mont Edgerton founded this firm in 1932. And this firm has been going since that time. And Mr. Edgerton had a son also whose name was Mont Edgerton, who likewise was a member of this firm. And the firm started out with my dad, Mr. Edgerton, a gentleman by the name of Mr. John Armstead. Then Bill Davis came on after him. And we have continued to grow since that time till we now have about a 26 or 27 person law firm.
How was it growing up with a father who was such a superstar and just sort of a community pillar?
Okay. My dad was a true professional lawyer. Okay, he towed the line on everything about what was professionally correct, what was honest, what was decent. I remember one thing that happened to me when I was a young man that demonstrated what kind of a guy he was. He was a disciplinarian in that he wanted me to work. He said, "Son, I don't care what you do, but you're going to work. And I don't care if you want to be a garbage collector, that's fine. Just be the best garbage collector in town." So at any rate, I remember when I graduated from high school, I was like most just graduated high school students, and I was out running around on Broadway with some of my friends in my car, and got picked up by the policeman for speeding, racing, reckless driving, and driving without a driver's license. All those charges. So they took me to jail. Took me to the city court. And the jail at that time was out on Broadway, and I said, they said, "Well, you're going to have to post a bond." I said, "Well, how much is it?" He said, "It's $50. I said, "Okay." So I posted my $50 bond. And I said, "Now what do I have to do next?" He said, "Well, we've got to give you a court appearance date." I said, okay, what if I just don't appear? He said, well, you're going to forfeit your $50 bond if you don't appear for court. I said, I think I've decided which way I'm going to go with this problem. Amazingly enough, my father never appeared in city court, except for one day. The day that my name came up in court to be for a hearing on these various and sundry things that I was charged with. My dad just happened to be in court that day. So at any rate, the end result was that he proceeded promptly from the courtroom to where I was working at that time. It was in the summer. I was working at Whittle Springs Swimming Pool as a lifeguard. And I tell you what, did I get run? He ran me through the coals, and I mean, he ate me up one side down there. But his comment was, he said, son, he said, I'm not disappointed that you got picked up. He said, my big disappointment is that you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me what had happened, and so that's what really has hurt me. And in the law, you just don't do these kind of things. You don't participate in these kind of activities in the law room. You embarrass me in front of a judge. I did. I had embarrassed him that I did not show up for court. So that was one of the interesting things that happened to me as a young man.
Did you always think that you wanted to be a lawyer?
Celeste, when I got through college, I played through high school. I actually played for the most part through undergraduate school, and I had not decided what I wanted to do. So I just, as an afterthought, I decided I would go to law school, which I did. And as a matter of fact, I made much better grades in law school than I ever thought about making while I was in undergraduate school. I had no idea that I wanted to be a lawyer, and so I went to law school, and I did reasonably well in law school. And so at the time I got through law school was what was going on at that time? It was it wasn't the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was the Berlin event where they had, the Russians or the East Germans had closed down Berlin, so there was no way to get into Berlin except to deliver food and merchandise, but to airlift food and supplies into Berlin. Well, there was also a big call-up of military at that time. The draft was still going, and I was about to get drafted. And so I said, gosh, I got to do something else beside that. So through the dean of the law school, Colonel Warner, Colonel Gray was his name, McDonald Gray, he was the 3rd Army commander, JAG commander. So through them, I got a commission. I got an appointment, a commission to go into the JAG Corps. But I graduated in, I think, September. So I had to do something between September and January because my commission did not come through until January of 1961. And so when my commission, so I had to do something. So I joined the reserves from September till January when my commission came through. Then that kept me from having to go on active duty. And then in January 1961, I did go on active duty and went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and participated in the same activities that other ROTC graduates as second lieutenants participated in at Fort Benning. I went in as the first lieutenant. Most of the people from ROTC went in as second lieutenants. So I just went through the basic infantry officers orientation course with all the ROTC graduates. So that's...
And were all the JAG officers in the same class as you?
they had regular classes. I'm not sure how often they had JAG, because our JAG school was at the University of Virginia Law School. So from Fort Benning, Georgia, from the 8 weeks course that I did at Fort Benning, Georgia, I went to the University of Virginia Law School and spent 10 weeks learning the Uniform Code of Military Justice. At which time, I think I mentioned to you that I competed with, law students from Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all the Ivy League schools. I was in JAG school with them, and found out that I had just as good an education as all those Ivy League lawyers did. So
the University of Tennessee had served you well.
It served me well, very well. Yes, it did.
What kind of cases did you work on when you were a JAG officer?
Well, the JAG Corps was interesting. Okay, so we did a lot of handling guys on the post. They're just just common legal problems. They had domestic problems, debt problems. When you first went in, though, also you were given the job of being defense counsel for military people that got charged and were being prosecuted in a court-martial. They always put the Army always put the guys fresh in the Corps as defense counsel, and put the guys that had all the experience were prosecutors. So they were pretty successful in their prosecution of these poor soldiers. So after about, I was in for 3 years, so after about a year and a half or 2 years, I was promoted to a prosecutor, and then I started prosecuting. So I was doing criminal law, a lot of criminal law, when I was in the JAG Corps.
Where were you stationed?
I was stationed. I got my station. I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia. Was my first station. That was the only station I was at. Was at Fort Gordon. Love Fort Gordon. Fort Gordon is in Augusta, Georgia, and I like to play golf. So as a result of being at Fort Gordon, Georgia, I got to go see the Masters golf tournament for 3 years in a row, and that was a very fun experience. And one of my favorite experiences while I was at Fort Gordon was there was a great golfer by the name of Ben Hogan, and he was on his way out, on his last leg, but he was still playing in the Masters golf tournament at the time. So I got to follow Ben Hogan at the Masters for 18 holes, which was one of the highlights of my golf involvement. Just seeing Ben Hogan play golf for 18 holes. At that time, he was still a great player, but he couldn't putt, and that was the worst thing that he couldn't do.
Did you ever get to play on that course?
I did not. And, very few people actually get to play on Augusta National Golf Course. You got to know a member, and even if you know a member, it's pretty difficult to get on the course. A few people around here, there was a guy at Valley Bank, back when Valley Bank was going, a guy named Tony Thompson, who was from Augusta, and he every now and then would take somebody from, he was a member there for a while, and he took people from here to Augusta and played on that golf course, but I never did get him.
You never got that invitation?
I did not get that invitation. I would have loved to have done that. Not many people around here have played the Augusta National. It's hard to get on.
Well, it's great that you got to go for 3 years in a row.
I love going to see it. And
it's a beautiful area.
One of the interesting things about doing that was that Augusta, there was an airfield right in the middle of Augusta, Georgia, called Daniel Field. And it was in downtown Augusta. And so during Masters time, every bigwig general and colonel and decided they were going to inspect Fort Gordon, Georgia. So Daniel Field was covered up with airplanes during that particular time as everybody came to see the Augusta National, the Masters golf tournament. That was a real experience too.
Going back to your dad, what kind of practice did he and Mont Edgerton have when they started out? What kind of things did they specialize in?
You know, Mr. Edgerton was a business lawyer. You know, Daddy did more litigation. He was a litigator, but also, like, you know, he did a lot of stuff at rezonings, administrative agencies, circuit court trials, chancery court trials. That was primarily his thing. You know, at that time we represented a company called White Stores that had lots of rezoning things, and Daddy always was involved in competing with a gentleman here in Knoxville that everybody knew named Kaz Walker. Okay, so Kaz Walker was always opposed to White Stores getting properties rezoned to build a grocery store. So Daddy was involved in a lot of that kind of thing with Kaz Walker. So, and actually, Kaz Walker and Daddy finally became pretty good friends. So they knew, and they would kid around with each other when they had a zoning thing. And so Kaz would help Dad some, and Dad would help Kaz some. So that was an interesting situation between them.
Did you ever go to court with your father when you were growing up?
You know, maybe once or twice. Not a whole lot. I think I went with him one time in Judge Bob Taylor's court, and that was an interesting experience.
That didn't scare you enough to think that you would never practice law?
I think at that time, Daddy had a case down there that it was our firm at that time probably was not really a heavyweight law firm in Judge Bob Taylor's eyes. Okay, we weren't very successful in trying cases in Judge Taylor's court. So that's about the only time I did. I went to him with one time on a case in Judge Taylor's court.
When you came back from the military, were you already married?
Yeah, I got married in October and went in the military in January. So that
was October of 1960?
October 1960. I had gotten married in October 1960, and then Kane and I we went to Fort Benning and found an apartment down there and stayed down there for 8 weeks. Look, it's in Columbus, Georgia. Great post. I mean, it's a humongous facility down there. That's when I went in as a first lieutenant, and then I think while I was it down there? No, it was at Fort Gordon. I got promoted from first lieutenant to captain. Okay, but anyway, we just went through the same thing that other infantry officers went through. Of course, I had not had ROTC. I had a couple of years of ROTC in college, Air Force ROTC. And after I left there, I went up to UVA, which is University of Virginia, and so we found an apartment and rented it, not knowing that our apartment while we were at UVA was right in the middle of all of the sororities and fraternities.
So you were in the party zone.
We were right in the middle of the party zone, and from Friday morning at UVA until the following late Sunday night, it was a big party at UVA. And so we just finally got to the point where we just get up and go party with them, wherever they had and everybody had a party going. So that was good party. That was a good duty.
You've never seen a party you didn't like, isn't that right?
Well, I'm not quite as much of a party guy as I used to be. I'm sort of much lower key now, Celeste, than I used to be. But the interesting thing about UVA was at the university they have a saying at the University of Virginia that a Virginia gentleman never speaks until he's spoken to. So, and that was a true statement. I mean, these guys at UVA didn't speak to you unless you spoke to them first. That was sort of difficult for me. I'm not taking.
You're a very friendly person.
Yeah, I know. And then sometimes you wouldn't get a good response to your hellos to these guys. But great school, great school.
You have been married to Kane then for, wow, how many years?
55 years. He's 56 years in
October.
In October, yeah.
And you all, tell us about your family that you all have raised.
Okay, we've got, Kane and I have got 3 daughters, great gals. Janet, my oldest daughter, she went to UT, and she went through nursing school, and she's an RN and practices nursing in the Watauga County Hospital in Boone, North Carolina. Mary Kane married a guy by the name of David Rhodes, so she's Mary Kane Rhodes. He is a home builder here in Knoxville and has been very successful in his home building. Rebecca, my youngest daughter, she married a guy that was a pilot in the Air Force, and he flew F-15s over the northern and southern no-fly zones of Iraq. That was, I think, during what was the Iraqi? What was the name of that? The Iraqi War, the first war.
The Gulf War.
The Gulf War, yeah, I think the Gulf War. He was flying, so he went by over there twice. He flew out of the southern no-fly zone in Saudi Arabia, and out of that was the Prince Sultan Air Base, and then the air base in Turkey for the northern no-fly zone. So he flew out of those 2 places, and then he just actually David Partain is his name, Rebecca Partain. He just in the last 2 months has retired as an instructor pilot in the Air Force, and now is doing strictly flying for Delta. Great guy, great guy.
And you have how many grandchildren?
I have, out of those 3 girls, I have now 12 grandchildren, of which one of which is an adoptee from David and Mary Kane Rhodes, who now have 6 children. Is a young boy from Uganda, and he's a cute boy. He's 10 years old, goes to Berean school, and is a great athlete. I told David, this is your retirement policy right here. You take good care of this boy.
I know you're proud of your daughters. You've always taken great pride in your family.
I take great pride in these 3 girls. They've all just been phenomenal girls. Never caused their mom and their dad the first heartache, other than some of the heartaches that they've had, but from causing any trouble for anybody. Mary Kane and Rebecca, actually, Janet went to UT. Rebecca and Mary Kane are graduates of the University of Auburn University, okay? And we have a little problem with that at times, but especially when we play Auburn, it's not a happy family, okay?
When you came back from the military, I guess it was just natural for you to join your dad's law firm.
Celeste, if I hadn't had a place to come back to, if I hadn't had this firm to come back to, at that time, we only had 5 or 6 people in the firm. Keith McCord was a member of this firm at the time. In fact, he came with the firm after when I went to the Army. He and I graduated in the same law class. But he came back, he went to Kingsport and practiced for a while, and then he came back here when I went to service. But I was at the point where I could have stayed in the Army. I enjoyed my Army career. I had great military lawyers to work for. I honestly believe that if I'd have stayed in the JAG Corps, I could have really become maybe a senior officer in the military. But I had this place to come back to, so I came back here, which was a much better decision than staying in the service. And so when I came back here,
Where was Edgerton McAfee located when you came back?
We were up in the old Park Bank building, Park National Bank building, on the corner of Union Avenue and Gay Street, right across on the same side of the street of where Miller's department store was. Miller's department store now is KUB. And everybody kids us about our facilities in the Park Bank building, and they said that our floors were uneven and that you sort of leaned to one side as you walked up and down the floors. But it was a great place to work, and they were a big client of ours, was the Park National Bank. In fact, when they went broke back in 1932, when the law firm was organized, Mr. Edgerton and Daddy reorganized the old East Tennessee National Bank into the Park National Bank, with many trips back and forth between Knoxville and Washington, D.C. And that's where the Park Bank came from, and it was organized about 1930, maybe 32, 33, 4, 35 in that area. So I came back when I came back out of the service. I came to our firm, which was in January of 1964.
And what did you start out doing when you came back in January of 1964?
Well, when I came back, what I started out doing was what the firm said they needed me to do, which was become, to some extent, a tax lawyer, okay? We had all the litigators to service our litigation needs. Daddy was a litigator. Keith McCord was a litigator. Mont was a jack-of-all-trades lawyer. Bill Davis, who was with our firm at that time also, is still alive and just recently retired. He was a very fine tax lawyer. And so they said, what we really need you to do was to start doing tax work. And I had no tax experience, so I just started doing some tax work and started going to the Southern Federal Tax, some of the seminars, taxation, and became sort of a business lawyer with emphasis on taxation. That worked out good for the firm. That worked out good for me also, because it meant that I was not doing what my dad was doing. My dad was doing more litigation. I was doing more business and tax work. And so because of that, I couldn't do what Daddy did, and he couldn't do what I did. So we sort of stayed out of it. We would not have been in each other's hair anyway, but it still made it easier for me. My mentor was Bill Davis. Daddy was more Keith McCord's mentor.
You were telling us that Bill Davis Sr. was your
mentor.
Bill
was sort of my mentor, yeah. He's the guy that sort of, well, that's another story. He was a very good mentor, a very good tax lawyer, so I learned a lot from him, okay?
This firm has had great clients over the years.
Yeah.
So you came in having a stable of really, really great people to work for, did you not?
Well, when I first came back from the Army, of course, everybody that apparently I looked reasonably young at that time, okay? So Bill would say, I want you to meet with so-and-so and on a project. So I'd meet with him and say, look, are you sure you're out of college? Are you sure you're a lawyer? I said, yes, I am. And so, but that went on, and but that was sort of a problem I had when I first started. But as a result of, we down through the years we've had great clients, And
one of the things I always learned from you was that you went the extra mile for clients. And as a result, I think that really has contributed to your success, just because you worked very, very hard for people.
You know, I did, because that was the thing I liked. Not only was I there a lot of people's lawyer, okay, but I was able to become close friends with many of the people that I worked for down through the years, okay. A lot of the, like we worked for White Realty, White Stores. It was his big client, and Tommy Overton and I became big friends. He was headed up then the Cherokee Distributing Company was one of my great clients, and Big George Sampson. He and I were just, we really cared for each other a lot. And even to this day, his widow, Barbara, is still alive, and she lives over in Nashville, and I'm still great friends with Barbara. She's got some health issues right now, but what a nice lady she was. And Billy Weigel and I were great friends, and what a great company he has evolved into over the years. I mean, he's got a great business. So we just had a lot of really good clients and good people and good friends. These people not only were clients, they were great friends. And,
but they always knew they could count on you, and I think that is key to your success, is that you're somebody that people can depend on.
Well, that's what I tried to do, and to some extent I was almost felt guilty if I didn't get their work done timely. I always felt like I needed to do work timely, and for a reasonable fee. I wasn't out there to try to hold them up fee-wise. I've always practiced law on the basis that my job as a lawyer, my primary responsibility as a lawyer, is to make sure that my clients are treated fairly. I'm not going to be anybody else's hatchet man to go out and hurt my opponent. I'm not going to let my opponent hurt my client, but I'm not interested in trying to just lord over somebody else, beat them up just to be beating them up. I don't get pleasure out of that. I don't get pleasure out of it. If I get a fair result out of a piece of business, I'm happy.
This firm has really grown under your leadership and the leaders that came before you and leaders that have come after you. In 1979, you took a chance on a young woman coming to work for you, and that's something that Edgerton McAfee had never had. What was it like to see women coming into the practice of law?
Was this the time when you came up here, Miss Celeste? Okay.
Yes.
And
I started as a law clerk.
Did you and Wendy come at the same time?
No, we were a year apart.
She came a year after you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you and Wendy were the two... Gwendy Kearney were the two first female lawyers we had, okay? I thought both of y'all were great, both great lawyers. At that time, I think probably there was a feeling, and rightfully so, that certain of the guys in the firm were being treated more fairly than you were being treated, and I understood that, and I was very disappointed when you guys decided you went in different directions. But while you were here, y'all did a great job. You were primarily working for Home Federal. One of your big clients for you I think, at that time, was working for Home Federal Bank, and Home Federal Bank is still a big client of ours. I can't remember Wendy. Wendy was sort of, I was sort of mentoring her, okay? She was doing a lot of the stuff working for a lot of the same people that I worked for, but then had her own group, her own clients also. She made a name for herself.
What was the dynamic like when you became the mentor versus you
being mentored?
Yes.
Well, I don't know how good a mentor I was. I I had certain ways that I felt like things should be done. I was not big on generating big time bucks, okay? And our law firm at that time, the way we practiced in our law firm was when Mr. Davis and Mont and Daddy, and even when I came here and Keith and Mont Jr., we always worked on the basis of when we shared money, we were a partnership at the time, and Daddy and Mr. Edge would sit down at the end of the year and say, who needs money this year? Who's got somebody getting married, or who's got somebody going to college? And we shared the money in this law firm based upon the needs of the people in the firm at that time. I'm not sure we treated you that way, so yeah, but at least that was the philosophy we operated under. So, for me being a mentor, of course, Gwendy Kearney was a good lawyer. She was a capable lawyer. You were a good lawyer. You were a capable lawyer. So it wasn't difficult because Gwendy was very, she was very responsible in everything she did. She wanted to do it good also. She did a good job on things. So it wasn't difficult to be a mentor. It's if you got a good person to mentor, it's not hard to be a good mentor.
One of the things I always learned early on from working with you was the fact that to really be a good lawyer, you had to give back to organizations, and you have over the years been very, very active in a number of nonprofits. What are some of the ones that you're most proud of your work with?
Well, one of the things that I got involved in early in my practice was the Helen Ross McNabb Center here in Knoxville, and I got on the Helen Ross McNabb Center Foundation Board. Okay, they have two boards out there: the Foundation Board, the Center Board. The Foundation Board is more the fundraising board. The Center Board is more the operational board. So one of the things that I was very proud of about McNabb Center was that I helped an endowment fund get started, and now they have a significant endowment fund at Helen Ross McNabb, and they have grown bigger and bigger and bigger. So then I left that and I got on the Helen Ross McNabb Center Board, and I became president of that board. That's the board that is operational, and it's grown to be it's a great community mental health organization today. It's grown big too, though. They merged with Child and Family Services. Were you on Child? No, you weren't. Well, they merged with Child and Family Services for one. They merged with a mental health institution down in Chattanooga. So they've done well. And so after I served on that board for about 12 to 15 years.
And you were honored by them with their Spirit Award, were you not?
I was. That was, I never felt like I deserved it, but I did get it. So at any rate, that's one of those things.
And you've also been honored by the UT Nursing School as a nursing champion. Tell us about your affiliation with that organization.
Well, my oldest daughter, Janet, went through UT's College of Nursing, and I got to be, they asked me to be on their advisory board, which I accepted. Dean Joan Cretia was the dean at that time. And so I sort of did that for several years, and then the new dean came on. Vicki Niederhauser is the dean now. And my passion right now, Celeste, is University of Tennessee. I personally think that the nurses are going to be the front line of delivering primary care, health care in the future. In the next, we're not going to have enough doctors to deliver, and nurse practitioners are great people to deliver primary health care. So I have a passion that our University of Tennessee needs a new nursing school. We desperately need, there's no reason why a a college, the state college in the state of Tennessee should not have a new nursing school. I mean, we've got a nursing school, but it's inadequate. It's old. And we've got the place to build it, and it's just getting somebody that's. The biggest problem about buildings at UT, you got to have somebody that can come with $1 million or $2 or $3 million bucks, and we need $45 million to build a new nursing school over there. And so that's my passion right now, is to help this school somehow or another raise the money and get on the building projects at the state legislature, that we can build us a new nursing school over there. It's an important project, I think, okay, for us to do that. But it seems like that some of the other colleges get on the list before we do. So we're working on it, though. That's my passion right now. It's what I'm more interested right now. That's my number one charitable organization, is nursing school at UT.
What's the secret to your longevity? Because you've been practicing law since 1964. You still like it. You still come in every day and do it. What's the secret to that?
You know, I don't know. Good genes, maybe. My mom died my mom was 90 years old when she died. My dad was 81 years old when he died. So, you know, they both had. I like it. I try to stay healthy. I've never been, I've never done a lot of, never been a heavy drinker. I didn't, I will. I'm not ashamed to say I'll go to a restaurant and have a beer or something like that, but not. I don't know. I don't know how come. Just the Lord has blessed me.
Why do you still come in every day?
But I suppose that I can't really say, Celeste, that I'm enamored significantly with the work, okay? I do like the people I work for, though. That's the reason why I come in. I come in because I love to be around and be with and help the people that are my clients. Right now, what I'm thoroughly enjoying doing is helping people who's lost a spouse and who are, lost, to just help them work through that process. That's a difficult process for people, especially that have had long lives with a spouse. So that's the thing that I really like. That's the reason why I like to come up here. And that's what I'm doing a lot of right now, is estate planning, estate administration. I'm at an age where I don't really particularly want to do a lot of heavy lifting. I used to do a lot of business purchases and sales. Okay, well those kind of things occupy almost your full-time work for a month or two or three to buy or sell a large business for a large price. And what happens when you get into something like that, then all your other business just sort of piles up. You don't have time to do it because you're working on this. So I'm not sure I want to do any more of that kind of stuff, any more of the 3 and 4 month projects.
What have you liked the most about what you've done over the years?
You mean as far as the practice law?
Yes.
Probably the estate issues. I do like to do wills. I like to help people who are trying to determine what they want to do and when they want to do it and who they want to give things to and how they want to structure their estate. That's fun for me, and I've done enough of it that I can sort of get through all the stuff and say, hey, this is what I think you might, from what I can tell, what you're telling me, this is what you ought to do. That's fun for me, and if they buy into it, and most people do,
What kind of changes have you noticed over the years with regard to family multi-generational businesses? Because you are now, in some people, working with the second and third generations of clients that you've done work for many, many years.
Well, there's been a lot of that. For example, White Realty, Tommy Overton's kids are running that business. Cherokee Distributing Company, the Sampson kids are running that business. the Weigel stores. Billy is a child of the founders of that business. He's got a son, Kurt, that's succeeding to the running that particular business. These kids that come up, that grow up in their mom and in their father's business or their mother's business, they're very capable people, and they're doing a good job, and they're making the changes that need to be changed. The big change in the ball practice, I think, now is IT. Everything that we're doing now is either on computers or. And I'm not proficient. I can do computers. I can send emails. I can enter research on the internet. But from the standpoint of doing spreadsheets or writing briefs, I still, instead of reading something off of a computer screen, I'd rather have it sitting here in my lap. I can comprehend it better than I can just sitting reading it on a computer screen. But I think I'm probably one of the fading breeds of that of researching in that fashion.
Do you find that in this age that we're in of sort of instant information that clients expect more instant responses than in previous years?
I don't know if clients are really requiring. Of course, I worked with the guy that needed to respond yesterday when he gave me the problem. So I can't. That's a hard question for me to answer because I was always so receptive to getting things done for people. I don't know that
You haven't really changed.
No, I still, if I have a project to do, I want to get it done. I don't waste a lot of time between the time I've given a job and the time I get it done. Several days maybe, or 4 or 5 days, unless it's a project that I can't get done any quicker. But I tell you what, I see a lot of change in the law practice. So I see more. I grew up in a firm that was not so money oriented, okay? But I think our firm is client based, but we also, these people need to make a living. People have to make money to live on. And it's tough. And so I know my own kids, they have a hard time, making ends meet. But that's just that's the nature of our society today. I'm not real happy with our society today, Celeste.
You have had a lot of lawyers pass through this law firm, a lot of good ones here. You've got the Attorney General of the state of Tennessee is an alumni of this law firm. The present counsel to the governor is an alumni of this law firm.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
You've got a lot of people, lawyers whose lives you've touched over the years. How do you reflect on that for all of these years of the people that have come before you and the people that have come afterwards?
Well, we have had a lot, and Herbert, our Attorney General,
Herbert Slatery.
Herbert Slatery is doing a great job in his job. Dwight Tarwater is doing a great job as counsel to the governor of the state of Tennessee. We've had good lawyers come through. We've had some that were marginal. We haven't always had superstars. Now, you and Gwendolyn Kearney were 2 superstars that came to this law firm, but we've had a few that have been difficult. But for the most part, it's a good place to work. We've got a good workplace. The environment of this firm is good. We have a good culture at Edgerton McAfee, I think. I do think that we are service oriented more so than we are money oriented, although, our people do like their money just like everybody else does. But I think for the most part that our law firm is a client-driven firm. We want to help people.
One of your favorite things you've talked about a little bit, but something that you've done on Wednesdays for as long as I've known you, is play golf.
Yes.
But you've also done a lot of business, I would say, on the golf course. What have you learned about life through golf?
Golf is the only thing that severely tests my emotions, okay? Every time, sometimes, when I don't play very well, I am not a happy camper. I still, even to this day, am competitive playing golf. Although my golf game is not nearly as good as it was at one time. Most of the people I play golf with have been clients also. People that I've worked for. We talk a little bit about golf on our when we go play golf, but that's not the central theme of what we do. We play golf because we love to play, and we like to bet $2 or $3 on the game. And if you win $2 or $3, you feel good about it, okay? And then you can rib the other people.
For all of the accomplishments you've had, what do you think you want to best be remembered as?
Well, Celeste, I think I would like to be remembered as a person that was honest, that was decent, that cared for people. That's the thing that motivates me right now. Is, for me to do something for somebody that has hurting or has a need, I get a great deal of pleasure. That's what keeps me going. You ask me what keeps me going in this law firm? For me to do something good or nice that makes life a little bit easier for somebody else. That's what makes life easy, good for me.
Is there a particular case, client that stands out in your career?
Early in my career, I found out that I should not go into other counties and try to practice. You better get somebody else on the other side, a lawyer in that community, to help you if you're going to be successful. Some of the things that go on. I just recently handled the sale of a convenience store for a lady whose husband's got a brain tumor like Pat Scruggs had. I mean, it's a death sentence, and just worried to death about it. She needed to sell the store so we got the store sold, and that made me feel good. I know that she's covered now for the rest of her life, even if she loses her husband. Those kind of things are the reason why I'm still up here.
Is there anything that we have not talked about today that you want to talk about?
Now, I think I've talked about everything I know to talk about, really, at this point in the game. Had some interesting law experiences. I'm proud of this firm. I'm proud of where we stand today. I feel like, for example, I have great friends with people like you, Celeste Herbert, who has always been a dear, dear friend. Your friend, Wendy Kearney, she's always been a dear, dear friend. Katie Humphrey, who's worked for me. She worked for Wendy too. She's been my legal assistant now for 23 years, and she's just a great gal. These relationships that I've created, that I've had over the years, are the things that keep me going. I don't know how much longer the Lord's going to leave me here, but whatever. I hope I can keep doing the same thing for a while anyway. That's where I am.